think, okay. So, in talking about the new police facility, a lot of this PowerPoint will talk about that as well. Fire equipment replacement, as the memo in the packet explained, Council gave direction a year ago that they wanted to determine whether or not we could pay for fire apparatus out of current budget. With that direction, that was a priority. One fire truck is on order. It will be delivered in February or March of 2018. Another fire truck is due to be ordered in 2018 for 2019 delivery. And as you know from the last council meeting, we recently, as recent as last Friday, submitted a community development block grant application for a fire truck, which might accelerate that replacement a little bit as well. With that plan, and which was presented to the council in this year's FY18 budget, there is no need to pursue fire equipment in this bond issue, so that is now out of the equation. Park Development Council, by resolution in May of 2017, directed that the remaining Hamilton funding, which is around $1.9 million, give or take, would be restricted for use in installing and replacing playground equipment in parks and to provide accessible pathways to that playground equipment. In addition, the Parks Department has developed a pretty innovative plan for incremental development of parks. They've sent people away to training so they can install playgrounds. They're able to do some of the scraping and shaping of parks and plant those parks, install irrigation systems as well. So they're addressing that. It's not a quick fix, but it is a way to get the parks that have been dedicated to the city and have access to public right-of-way that is accessible to get them developed sooner rather than later. So that issue also came off the menu for the bond issue. Downtown infrastructure, one of the things that's being addressed in that way, one of the things with the limited amount of money that was available, staff looked at replacement of what appears to be the most deteriorated part of the downtown infrastructure. That is the intersections of the streets in downtown. The aggregate crosswalks are spalled, sometimes falling apart, have cracks, separations between the pavement and the crosswalks. So that was about all that we could address with this amount of money. Since that time, the Moscow Urban Renewal Agency has indicated that they are considering the expansion of the Legacy Crossing District to the west side of the public right-of-way on Main Street, which would provide additional opportunities for economic development and partnering with the city to address those issues. So again, that issue seems not ripe for this bond issue. Street repair and maintenance. In looking at that, a $1 million shot in the arm would be appreciated. However, at the time this was developed, the city had budgeted $375,000, I believe, for the streets maintenance project, the annual street maintenance project. Since that time, due to council direction, also due to the fact that the state raised the fuel tax, allowing even more money to come back to street department. That has grown to $750,000 in last budget year, and this year I believe it's $840,000 if memory serves. So we have essentially doubled that, and so that has become an addressed priority in a different way. City Shop, on the other hand, there have been a lot of scoping that's been done, preliminary conceptual designs and discussions with all of the departments that share that facility. The cost has been extremely high. It's a big facility. It serves a lot of needs. So because of that cost, it couldn't be addressed at all in a $10 million bond measure. So staff is working with the consultants on some different alternatives to determine if that can be addressed in a different way. Different way has a lot of different issues regarding that. It might mean having different operations in different places around the city, if that makes sense operationally and from a monetary standpoint. So those are just some of the things that are going on. So essentially what we're really talking about is facilities themselves. So in that, in order to investigate all of these issues, the city formed these technical advisory committees to deal with each of these. They're all pretty self-explanatory until you get down to the Finance Technical Advisory Committee and the Public Relations Communications Technical Advisory Committee, and those were in place to assist in determining what financial issues were present. And then Public Relations Communications is to take that message to the public. As you know, for a general obligation bond, it requires 66 2/3% in the state of Idaho in order to pass that bond. Obviously, and it is a bond election. So we need to get information out to the public, let them see what's going on so that they can make an informed decision when it comes time to vote for it. So that is essentially the crux of the process in coming up to the proposal that is coming before you. So one of the things that occurred, and you'll notice in the packet of information that you have in your council packets, you'll see that Recycle Center Police Services Facility Assessment with a date of December 2016 on it, about 11 months ago. That was worked on from about February of 2016 until December of 2016. Council authorized us to retain LCA Architects out of Boise to assist us with that, and they worked with the police and the other TAC team to determine where would be the best place to locate a police facility. And discussions were had around the idea was to keep the police facility as close to downtown as possible in order to maintain that connection with central downtown. And it came down to a couple of choices. One of the best choices, because of accessibility and access for travel north, south, east, and west, was the recycling center site on Jackson Street. So, and then about October, maybe November of 2016, we approached Gritman Medical Center to determine if there was any opportunity to discuss the ability of the city to purchase the federal building in downtown, which in turn was purchased by Gritman some time ago, to determine if that could be repurposed as a police facility, as well as managing or allowing us to put a couple of other city operations in there, most notably community development, engineering, and information systems. We discussed that, retained some architectural assistance with that, assessed the building, so on and so forth. That discussion and all of those processes took a long time. So it wasn't until this fall when it was determined that that had a lot of issues to it, and the project was abandoned because it wasn't feasible and wouldn't be pursued. So we went back to the drawing board, came forward with this facilities plan that had been mothballed essentially since December. So this is a study that's in your packet. It's not online, but certainly is available. The idea was to explore the idea of placing a police station on the current recycling center site. The recycling center facility has several things that limit its use or its effectiveness as a recycling center. Again, not well suited for the new single stream system and inadequate storage processing capacity. The customer drop-off and redemption is not well configured. It has expanded a lot from the time it was first constructed in 1994. There have been several issues with conflicts between the forklift necessary removal of bins and people utilizing the drop-off. So at any rate, it would have been redesigned in the near future as well if it was at least deemed adequate. The yard waste drop-off underside creates the safety concerns on Almond Street, as we've talked about. And as a result, the sanitation department is got an RFP, a request for proposals, to complete a comprehensive assessment and master planning process. This was discussed and authorized in the FY 2018 budget. The idea is to, with all of these new services being provided, as well as a question of ultimate disposal of garbage. We're coming into a time when we will be either renewing or putting out an RFP for disposal services as well. Currently, our disposal services, garbage is disposed of in Boardman, Oregon. There may be some alternatives that Tim Davis, our sanitation manager, wishes to explore before we re-up that contract. And that is the last term of a 30-year contract. So it's been renewed several times. This is the last 5-year renewal. Want to make sure that we're doing it right. But he will be moving forward with an RFP in that way, as well as this comprehensive assessment and master planning process. This master planning will also include a public outreach program to determine what the wants and needs of the community are. What does the community want? Is the community utilizing the recycling center? I know one of the things that has been discussed over the years, the recycling center is not, you don't need to flash a Latah County or City of Moscow ID to use it. So how many Whitman County people use it? How many people from other jurisdictions use it? The city pays, the ratepayers pay Moscow Recycling a certain amount of money for every ton of recyclables through that recycling center. So naturally, if it's being utilized by people who are not paying for those services, it raises the per ratepayer subsidy. So those are things that we wanted to look at.